Welcome to the Handcrafted Podcast, the business of making things. I'm Paul, founder of Philadelphia Table Company and the Handcrafted Network, and I believe great craftsmanship deserves great business strategy. This podcast is for makers who want to build not just great products, but a thriving business. Each episode will dive into the mindset, systems, and skills that turn craft into success. All right, guys, welcome back to the Handcrafted Podcast. We're going to do an episode today that's actually my favorite kind of episode to do, and that is a office hours. So I get to look at some questions you guys have sent. Thank you so much for sending those. It's been great getting to know some of you guys and getting to see some of the questions you have. So if you have a question and want to be included in future office hours episodes, just email paul@thehandcraftednetwork.com. I would love to answer your questions. All right, so a reminder, this podcast is brought to you by the Handcrafted Network. It's an online community of makers that also has a classroom and group calls. It's a really great place to connect with other people who are in the same industry. We have woodworkers, we have people who do case goods, we have people who do cabinets. We're also starting to bring in people who are not doing woodworking too. So if you have any interest in being part of a community and part of connecting with other people, this is a really great place to go. I have a link in the show notes below, so you could click and follow that. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to me, paul@thehandcraftednetwork.com, or you can just go to thehandcraftednetwork.com and you could check everything out there. Yeah, so with that said, let's dive into the questions here. All right, number one. Hey, Paul, I could use some guidance on pricing. I've been getting a steady flow of inquiries and I'm about booked 2 months out. That's great. But I still hesitate every time I think about raising my prices. Part of me feels like I'll scare people off, even though I know my work is solid and my margins aren't great. How do you actually know when is the right time to charge more, and how do you get over the mental block of doing it? All right, well, quick answer, now is the time. So if you have a relatively steady flow of work, what you should start doing is start incrementally raising your prices. You should start seeing what you can what the market can bear. If you're getting yes to everything, if everybody coming in, you give a quote and immediately goes, yes, that's right, you know you're pricing too low. You know that you need to bring your pricing up. I like to shoot for about 30 to 40% yeses. That seems to be sort of the sweet spot with the proper amount of pricing. Also, going back and using my pricing tool, I gave a quick podcast about that a while ago. Also, you can email me for it. But the pricing tool helps you sort of be confident in what your pricing is, and you can slowly start increasing your margin there. Margins are super important. They really do matter and we talked about this in the last podcast episode, margins really do matter. They matter when you have to start purchasing materials. They matter when you start having employees. So you really need to start working on bringing the pricing up now. The last thing you want to be known as is the guy or girl who is the lowest price out there. Like, that's not really where you want to be. I know for me, sometimes if I send a quote and somebody goes immediately like, "Oh, it's great, let's do it," I go, crap, I could have charged more. So I'm always looking for ways for you to guys be able to charge more for your work. And if you're already booked out and you have a decent amount of work coming through, I think slowly start to incrementally raise the prices. So I'm actually going through another round of raising prices now. And the way I was talking about it internally with my team was basically I was saying, hey, if I'm hitting my sales quota, if I'm hitting the amount that I want to hit for the month, the rest of the month I'm going to start increasing the pricing just to see how that starts to sit. Because once my sales quota is there, that's great. That means we're able to survive. That means we're able to be profitable and continue moving forward. But what I want to do is slowly start incrementally raising the prices to see where it's at. The other thing too is sometimes you could be fishing in the wrong pond. Like if you're using the wrong lure, sorry for the fishing analogy for those of you guys who don't fish. If you're using the wrong lure, you're going to catch the wrong fish, right? So, or if you're in the wrong pond, that doesn't have big bass and you're only catching, little panfish, then you're not in the right spot. So that's a big part of it too, is just making sure that you're advertising and marketing to the right people and to the specific people in there. That's a whole different question that we can talk about there. But if you're doing stuff on Facebook Marketplace, people tend to expect a lower price there, so it's going to be a little harder to raise your prices. Where if you're in more of an art gallery, or you're in like a bigger sort of art scene, or you're in a wealthier area, people might be willing to pay a little bit more. So make sure you're fishing in the right pond and then slowly start to increase your pricing. But if you already have 2 months of work, it means you're sort of in the right pond already. So just slowly start incrementally raising the prices just to see what happens. And usually for me, we're about 3 to 4 months queue time. So that feels about good. So once you start going above 4 months, then maybe you need to raise your prices a little bit more. All right, next question. Hey, Paul, big fan of the podcast. I'm at the point where my shop feels like organized chaos. Ooh, I know that. Been there. Mostly chaos. I'm juggling client emails, material orders, quoting, building. Everything depends on me remembering things in my head. I know it's unsustainable. If you were in my position and had to start with one system to make life easier, which one would you build first? I want something that gives me immediate breathing room without taking weeks to set up. All right, so I wish there was sort of an easy button. I think the first system that you're going to want to set up is you're going to need to designate somebody to sort of do an operations role. If it's just you in the shop, what you need to do is start organizing and breaking down each individual step and possibly breaking those things into days. So what I like to do, and I talked about this before on a previous podcast, is I outline what the customer journey looks like from step one from inquiry to sale, and break that down and see where there's different bottlenecks. So for you, it sounds like a lot of the bottlenecks are kind of on the computer stuff, like maybe like the client emails, material ordering, all that stuff. So what I would do is I would start blocking your time and start figuring out what the system is for that. So it's like, as soon as you get a deposit, what do you do? Do you make the material order right away? Do you wait? Do you do the design? Like, where do you go from there? And I think break down each individual step. But to me, if you're that busy with it, it might make sense to start bringing somebody else on so that you're not doing all of these things. So it might be time to bring on an extra builder. It might be time to bring on somebody who could answer emails for you. And I know a lot of you guys in this group are making things because you enjoy making things. So I'm never going to tell you to stop making things. I know that that's like why a lot of you guys do this. And so if you enjoy making things, you need to hire someone to do the admin. You need to hire a personal assistant, somebody who's able to help you take material orders, client emails, all of that sort of stuff. One thing that really helped me pretty early on was starting to do like a project management system. So we use Trello. Trello is like relatively cheap, so that's really helpful to get the stuff organized. Monday.com is also really great. I know a bunch of people that use that. And in my early days, I actually used Microsoft To Do, which was a really good way of like having each project listed out. So I think the very first system you should do is some sort of internal project management system like that. So To Do, Trello, Monday, any one of those sort of computer systems, even honestly clipboards that organize the job so you can start seeing through the chaos of what it is. Systems and processes definitely complex, so I'm here for your help. If you need any help on this, send me an email. The group, we also talk a lot about this stuff as well, so maybe makes sense to join the group or ask for some help in like starting to arrange and get these sort of systems in place. All right, question 3. Paul, I'm having a hard time getting new leads. I post on Instagram when I remember, but nothing seems to catch. What's the simplest thing I can start doing this week to stay visible and actually get people reaching out? So, this is kind of twofold. So they're not mutually exclusive, I guess, but, just posting on Instagram when you remember is not really going to get you anywhere. It's really about creating a social media strategy. So figuring out why you're posting, what you're posting, and being consistent with what it is. I have like a content calendar within the group. If you're interested in that, I could send it to you, paul@handcraftednetwork.com. I can send that to you. So that definitely helps. That helps keep the ball rolling. But if you're having trouble getting new leads, it possibly means that A, you're not doing something that's wowing clients enough to become your own advocates, or 2, you're just not getting yourself out there enough. And I know it's a little easier said than done, but sometimes cold outreach is really helpful, posting about it on your own personal social media. I'm not saying, it sounds like you're pretty early into the industry, so I'm not telling you to like run ads or anything like that, but consistency is key. What happens is it starts to sort of snowball effect. So people start sharing, and then it becomes friends and friends of friends and all of that sort of stuff. So stay at it. It's really interesting. The theme of my life, I'm actually waiting for my first child to come in the next few days. We'll see. But, I was thinking today, there's that Tom Petty song, The Waiting, where it's like waiting is the hardest part. So I know all of us we want it all. We want it now. We want all the leads we possibly can, but sometimes it just takes time. So waiting is the hardest part, but it's a matter of actively pursuing, actively moving towards it. So I suggest posting on Instagram regularly, posting on socials, going to functions, networking, meeting people, cold outreach, making sure people know that you are there and you are open for business. All right. Number 4. Hey, Paul, I think I'm finally ready to hire my first employee, but honestly, I'm kind of freaked out about making the wrong decision. I'm worried I'll hire someone who slows me down instead of helping. When you hired your first person, what were the signs you looked for, and is there anything you wish you avoided in the first hire? Okay, so in my first hire, I was looking for somebody who was just like generally handy. I assumed I could teach somebody how to do the stuff. I wasn't an amazing woodworker anyways when I started, so I wasn't super particular about that. I just wanted somebody who would show up on time, who would just kind of do what they were told, but also in a way, a little bit of a self-starter. It's always going to take time. That you have to remember, an employee is always going to move slower than you. They're always going to take longer. They're not going to think the way that you think. You need to get over the hurdle of the fact that you're going to duplicate yourself, because you're not going to. There's no way you're going to do that. So what you're going to do is find people that can help fill your gaps, is what I like to do. So if you're not great at sanding, if you're not great at finishing, if you're not great at emails, if you're not great at sales, hire people that can fill those gaps for you. For me, when I hired my first person, it was just like, hey, this is somebody who would show up. I hired them part-time, so it's you don't need to be super stressful about it. You don't need to be all stressed and like, oh my God, there's like a new payroll expense, all that stuff. I hired them on like an as-needed basis. They were a 1099 employee. They worked for me twice a week, so I could get an understanding of how valuable and how helpful they actually were. One thing to look for, especially if you're in like sort of a woodworking business, is you want to look for somebody who's handy, who knows like general tools, who knows how to put things together, who knows how to take things apart. All of that sort of stuff is like pretty critical and pretty important. But just remember, I think my main tip is just make sure you're not trying to hire yourself or trying to duplicate yourself, because that's just never going to happen. They're never going to work at the same speed as you, so you need to start making sure you're doing that. And also pretty early on, I think one thing that you want to avoid is really micromanaging and not letting them run free. So obviously they're going to take some training, they're going to take some skill, they're going to need to acquire some knowledge, all of that sort of stuff. So all of those are great, but at the same time, you also need to be willing to let them go, let them do their own work, let them make mistakes. I know that's the hardest part, but letting people make mistakes is a really good way for them to learn and for you to grow. Like when you make a mistake, it's a way of saying like, hey, you've just become a better woodworker, because the next time you're not going to make that mistake. So those are kind of the things. Don't get too stressed about it. Find somebody that you get along with, seems trusting, and take them in as a part-time basis. Don't hire them full out right away. Just say, hey, can you just come be a shop helper, and see where it goes from there. All right, another question. This one's actually a kind of fun one. So somebody asked, what is the song at the beginning of the podcast? So funny enough, that is a song by my band, Bel Heir. It's called Lemon Pie. So in my past life, I was in a rock band called Bel Heir. We were signed to RCA Records. We did a lot of touring. We did recording in LA and did the whole shebang for, I don't even know, probably 6 years or so. And this was a song that I always loved, and I always loved that one part. It was a really cool fan favorite. I remember seeing people dancing to it and singing aloud to it, and we had to like a call and response thing to that one part in the song. So yeah, so that's a song by my band Bel Heir, Belheir, if you want to check it out. We have a full catalog of music on Spotify, kind of all the different eras that you can check out. But yeah, thanks for asking. It's cool that you recognized it. I thought it would be a cool intro for the podcast. All right, guys, I hope this podcast episode was helpful. We are starting to do a bunch of new year, new me, new whatever type stuff in the community. So if you're interested in joining the community, it's just thehandcraftednetwork.com. There's also a link below in the show notes here. And I'd love to see you in the community. When you do sign up, you get prompted to schedule a call with me so we can talk. I love to learn about you. I love to connect some of the dots and work through some of the problems that you're working on, and just kind of help point you in the right direction. It's great to be a part of something where everybody has sort of a unified vision. And I know it feels kind of weird to admit that you need help, but it's definitely worth it and one of the critical unlocks for me. All right, guys, have a good one, and peace.